Kyler Murray?
Well, I've seen him before. This is my time in San Francisco, so I know what type of player he is. Doesn't make things better, but at least you know what you're dealing with.
And what are you dealing with?
Uh, a guy that's an exceptional athlete. Like I don't know how fast he is, but he's fast. But he's really a lot of people see him, with their offense running the ball, at times making big plays like that. But he can throw the ball. That's the thing that's a little bit different about him. I think just my perception of him is he has the arm strength. He can make all the throws. You see it on tape, so he can do a little bit of everything.
How does he see down the field?
He moves. He gets back, and there's times you see him thread the needle from the pocket, but a lot of times, he'll slide a little bit in the pocket just to open up some windows. But again, he can do it all. He's very, very dangerous.
So what is the key to defending him?
Try to keep him in the pocket, and it's a combination of really executing your pass rush games to try to keep him in the pocket, but at the same time, you have to bring pressure. To ask four guys to try to bottle him up and keep him in the pocket is a tall task. So I think it has to be a combination of what we do with our front, what we do from a pressure standpoint, and then mixing up our coverages.
With the way they play, like big picture offense, with the way they play and how they play, what makes it a difficult matchup for defense?
Well, right now it's you go back to the Chip Kelly era, like everything's fast, they're on the ball, and it's a difficult offense to defend in terms of executing your responsibilities with all the different type of runs. So you put those two things together, it makes it extremely difficult. So we're working as hard as we can in practice just to try to simulate that, but you can't replicate the game speed. So
I know the game has evolved to this point where
Yeah.
You're used to seeing these fast offenses and spreading it out, but are they a little bit more unique than anybody else, or do you think they fall into categories with other teams?
yeah, they're unique. Because I think you see more of the college aspect. Like if you look at Baltimore, those guys are a little bit more unique than other teams. And when you have the quarterback that can run the offense, that's what really makes it dangerous.
Joe, what happened on those two long touchdowns?
That's what I was asking myself when it happened. But seriously, we did some different things. We made some additions to our package. We did some different things from an operation standpoint. And if you're off just a little bit on game day, that's what happens. And we were off a little bit. I look back at the game plan because you're always pushing that threshold of what's enough and what's too much. So we really worked on it this week, just in terms of having a tight menu, just to make sure we can execute.
So is that an assignment breakdown, Joe, or is it a read, or is it a combination of all
Technique.
Technique?
It was a technique of how we were going to play it off of what they did.
I see.
And that's what happens when you do some things, like you want to take advantage of what you see on tape. So you're repping, say, a certain defense versus a couple different routes. You call a defense on game day, it's something different. And that always happens, but we were just a little bit off just in terms of the execution.
Joe, it's one thing that the quarterback with his speed, and then you add Rondale Moore onto that field. How does that complicate your task?
Yeah, it's a lot of speed. Really, it's like playing basketball on grass. You're gonna have to defend the width of the field, and they spread you out just in terms of what they do. So it's going to be our ability to make tackles out in space, sometimes one-on-one. And I believe in our guys. We have speed too, but that's really what it's going to come down to.
Do you expect to have all your corners?
Hopefully, yes.
Joe, it seems like does he take deeper drops than normal? And does that kind of invite you, does that lead to trouble because there's even more space and then you're kind of caught in between?
Well,
Rushing him and
there are certain quarterbacks that do that.
Yeah.
Mahomes does the same thing. If you feel pressure because they believe in their arm strength, so let's back up by time and I can still make the throw. And you see him do that at times, and he's dangerous. He's hard to deal with, but we'll put together a good plan.
Joe, is it fair to say that JOK, when you drafted him, with in mind the Kyler Murray's, Lamar Jackson, that maybe he could be a guy that could shut him down or help shut him down?
Yes.
Expand on that.
Yes. In our system, we really like athletic linebackers. The more that offenses change and they spread you out and try to create matchups, defensively, we want to be able to create the matchups we want. So now when you have a guy like JOK, Grant Delpit, you can put more speed on the field. you feel like now you're putting those advantages in terms of the matchups on your side.
Is
So
it
now-
unrealistic to say that you can't use a spy in the NFL?
No, you can. You can. I think you have to be careful in terms of what type of quarterbacks you spy and what they're trying to do. But you can still spy.
And that six games into the JFK and really Delta now,
Mhm.
Are they caught up enough so that you could use them the way you envisioned?
Oh, definitely. And that's what I was saying, operation-wise, and what we did. We kind of made a big jump, last week in terms of what we had on our game plan, and it's really just moving forward, like completely with our dime package. So we're definitely heading that direction. We'll continue to do that the rest of the season.
From operations standpoint, we saw JJ3 with the green dot and we talked about it.
Yeah.
Did everything go smoothly that way?
Yeah, it was. It was tough, and you have to give credit to the Chargers. They did a great job, and simply they made more plays than we did. But for him to call it, get down, get back out, and they're on the ball, he did a great job during the week, and in the game he handled it very well. So it should be easier moving forward.
You want to keep that with him then?
Right now, and we're just going to keep evaluating it and see where guys are at. But right now, we'll probably keep the green dot on it.
The DPI on AJ Green, what's your take on that?
I'm a DB coach.
Yeah.
I never worry about it because there's a lot of contact. So there's penalties they don't call where I see we're holding. There's penalties where their offense pushes off they don't call. Sometimes they call it, but I never concern myself with those penalties.
Did he have a good game there?
He did. I think people remember what happened at the end of the game because it was the penalty, and then we had the coverage where he got beat inside, but he had, I think, 3 pass breakups before that. He was doing a good job.
Joe, in a team like the Cardinals, we talk about their speed, but they had some undersized guys, right? Kyler and Edmonds and more. But can you try to beat up a team like that, or because they have Hopkins and Green, it makes it hard to do that?
What do you mean by beat up?
I don't know, like physically, like physical at the line of scrimmage. Belichick does that with
Yeah,
teams.
you got to try to catch them first,
Yeah.
but you know what I mean? No, I think we're just going to play our brand of football. And sometimes, it's zone and keeping our eyes on the quarterback and getting breaks, and playing physically that way. Sometimes it's just man coverage, just trying to stay as tight as possible. But we'll play our brand of football. But with those guys, they try to put them in positions where you can't touch them. So we just got to get as many people to the ball as we can.
And how hard was it finding out Sunday morning that Jadavian can't play?
It happens, and that's why as a coach you can't let things surprise you. Like, oh my God, what are we going to do? We addressed it, looked at our game plan, made the adjustment we need to make, talked to the people we need to talk to, and just went out and played the game.
Feel good about him this week?
I do.
Joe, Hopkins, no one's asked you about him here. It's Thursday, and he's one of the best players in football, isn't he?
Yes, there's no doubt. And it's been a couple years since I've seen him, but he's really a guy we all know has great hands. He separates at the top of routes. He's just a crafty guy that's been able to do it for a long time. So we've definitely talked to the DBs just in terms of how we feel we should play him. But even saying that, it's easy to say, harder to do.
Does he just
So.
go up, throw up 50-50 balls to him?
If there's anything around him, he's catching it. One hand, two hand. He just has that big catch radius, and he rarely drops any passes thrown to him.
The Hail Mary pass last year.
I know. Hopefully we won't get to that.
John Johnson was talked about with Kyler. He likes it when rushers get off the ball real fast because he can kind of dance around that initial rush.
Yeah.
That's the instinct of a defensive lineman is to get off the ball.
Yeah.
What's the happy medium when trying to get after Kyler in that regard?
You have to have a plan. It depends on what we're calling up front, but you're either running your pass rush games to try to direct them one way to somebody trying to run them down, or if it's more of a straight rush, it's just a plan of how you're going to play your inside players and your ends. Who's going to control the pocket. Is it more of a level rush, or you're trying to set an edge and bring somebody from the other side? So there's multiple things we do, and we're going to need all of them.
Joe, you mentioned it before. You're going to get PI calls. There's going to be stuff that doesn't, whatever.
Yeah.
Are they allowing more hand fighting to go on? It just seems like it's just much more physical downfield than it's been in the past.
I think it depends on the crew that you get.
Gotcha.
And we're always aware of what certain crews like to call, but we want to play physical. We want to put our hands on people, but at the same time, we want to do it where we're legal. But that's just part of the game. All the DBs I coach, I was like, don't even bring it up. You know what I mean? Sometimes they're going to get us, sometimes they're going to get them, but we just want to make sure we're executing our techniques.
Is it hard for you as a coach to coach your guys to carry a guy into the end zone?
Yes. But it was the best thing to do for this situation. And it's really something that we talk about. You don't want to talk about. We practice. And unfortunately, we had to use it that game, but the guys executed the
Staley,
call.
after the game, thought he wasn't sure if it was legal because his guy
Yeah.
had given up. But as far as you know, as long as the guy's kind of standing, you can just carry him in.
Yeah, that's on the refs to make that call. You know, but they did a good job executing.
When did you practice that? Training camp or during the week?
We just have situational periods that we do it, where we try to address the last play. You know, when victory situations, other situations, and I don't do it every week, but you know, I just make sure I cover it probably once every 4 weeks.
You've been coaching the NFL for a while now, so like at what point did you start practicing that? Like, is that a recent
It was recent. Towards the end of my time in Denver, we started talking about that situation. You know, but again, it's something you hope doesn't come up.
Yeah.
But it did.
Hey, Miles only
Couple more.
practiced, I think once last week, right? And
Yeah.
played. He said after the game he's going to keep pushing through it.
Yeah.
What are you seeing from him behind the scenes? Is it, you know, does it set an example to other guys when he does that? And how do you think he played through it?
Yeah, I mean, every player has those little bumps and bruises they have to deal with, and I think seeing the leader of our defense trying to push through it just helps motivate the guys. Like when they feel that way, like I see Miles doing it, that I need to step up and I need to do it. And we don't want to encourage guys that are truly injured to go out there. That's a decision they have to make. But I think Miles going out in the field and fighting through those things is big for us, what we're trying to do defensively.
Joe, Coach Staley went, I think, on 4th down 3 times last week, and it just seems, sorry to bring it up.
No, it's
And it
good.
just seems like there's that aggressiveness across the league. Do you think that's here to stay? Do you think that's going to be the kind of the new way we're going?
With all the analytics, I think all these situations are talked about more. I know as a coaching staff, we meet on them at the end of the week, and you talk through those type of situations and situations you see that happen throughout the league every week. And you know, he was aggressive. The one where they were backed up, you know, it's just we just struggled whether we hurt ourselves or we just didn't execute. But the one where it was backed up and they converted, that was used because it could have changed the game to, you know, we would have been up 30 something to 13 at that point or something like that. So credit to him, but we just got to be better in those situations.